Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's webinar from the book Living Wisely, Living Well. And my name is Brahmachari Aditya, and I'm speaking from Ananda, Pune. So let's begin with a small chant and prayer, and then we will go into the topic for this evening, which you probably know is advice for speakers. So let's start with a small chant, friends. This chant is called Door of My Heart, and it's a chant by Yogananda ji. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee. Night and day, night and day, night and day, I look for thee. Night and day. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee. Night and day, night and day, night and day, I look for thee. Night and day. Let's offer a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, beloved friend God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, beloved Guru, Paramhans Yogananda Ji, and saints of all religions. We humbly bow before you all. Great masters, be with us this evening. Help us understand your teachings, to develop friendships, and to deepen our understanding of the spiritual path. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let's sit up, friends. And let's take a double inhalation. Tense our bodies and relax. Let's do this 2 more times. One last time. Tense with will. Relax. Feel the deep relaxation in your body. Now let's keep our spine straight, and for just a brief moment, let's close our eyes. Focus your mind at the point between the 2 eyebrows, and let's meditate. Try to keep the body still, try to calm the heart. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Good evening, friends. As you know, we are discussing the reading for today from the book Living Wisely, Living Well by Swami Kriyanandaji. And for this evening, it's a beautiful reading for July 19th. I'll read it first. The first and last words of a sentence are especially important. See that your sentences begin and end well. The rest then will to a great extent take care of itself. A very simple reading, but I think Swamiji is speaking from a lot of experience. I remember he rewrote this book. This is the third version of something he had intended many years ago. I think first it was called Do It Well, then it became Do It Now, and finally this compilation of daily quotes, became Living Wisely, Living Well. And he had written this in 2009 in Pune. He was finishing it, and he had already spent, you might say, a life of writing, explaining Yoganandaji's teachings, the deep teachings of yoga in very simple, practical way. And so when he was mentioning a very simple thing which ties into our topic for this evening. Initially the topic was shared advice for teachers, but actually the topic is advice for speakers. So it's a more general topic, does not concern only teachers, especially of meditation, but it's about speaking in general. And Swami is mentioning that he's talking about writing actually over there, that how to begin a sentence. Also you can say about speaking and how to end it. And it's very important to focus on that, because so many times you might say, if we are not clear about it, and actually I was somewhat in that stage. I hope I can quickly overcome it. I'm seeing this to be a slightly challenging topic, but I'll try to share whatever little I know from my experience, that when we begin something, it's very important to get the attention of people we are talking to. It is very important to be clear in our own mind, what do we want to convey, and of course when we are ending it. Now this applies to a sentence, but you can expand it. It applies to your paragraph, or it applies to your 5-minute talk, or even whatever duration you're going to speak. So we want to make it very clear to ourselves first, and then that is communicated to the audience what we are trying to share. So in this topic of advice for speakers, I was thinking, first of all, fortunately we have some wonderful examples. Swami Kriyanandaji himself was a great example, but even though we haven't seen Master speak, except in some videos, small brief videos, Swamiji would convey, he said that Yoganandaji was a very magnetic and great speaker. So let's see, what are the qualities that we need in order to develop that skill very nicely. So first of all, I would think that Master's presence, Swami used to say, was extremely, almost his enthusiasm was infectious. That he would come on stage sometimes bursting with enthusiasm and demanding from his audience also to meet him on that level. And he would often ask them, how is everybody? How feels everybody? And he would expect a response. The audience slowly came to understand, and they would reply back, awake and ready. And Swami would just say that then Master would move ahead, because he was there to actually teach people a very new thing, share with them something which they were not brought up with, but also it was a very deep teaching. Similarly, whenever we are presenting something, it's very important that we connect with our audiences on that level and bring up that enthusiasm. I want to share over here, you can look this up, it's called Flow Learning, a system developed by Naya Swami Bharat Cornell in Ananda Village. And it's a very beautiful principle called flow learning, where he is sharing 4 steps, and this can be part of any talk or presentation we make. First of all, it says awaken enthusiasm, and this is exactly what I shared right now. Why are people listening to us? What should we share? Why is this topic of interest to them? Perhaps we can ask a few important questions. That is, like, for example, I could say about speaking, we all have to speak, we all have to communicate, and Swami is giving here us a tool that how we can make it more magnetic and bring people's focus. Second thing is focus, attention. That once we have a topic, to bring it a deeper focus, to make people aware how important it is. And then third one is offer a direct experience. In our meditation classes, for example, we would first say, how important this topic is, how relevant meditation is to our lives, what are the benefits of meditation. Then we could say that we want to, perhaps define it. And then very quickly, we have found sometimes that instead of talking too much about it, if we give people a brief experience of what we are talking, then they value it very much. And finally, the fourth point is sharing inspiration. That leaving them with some, ideas, leaving them with some stories, and seeing how they can perhaps, express further interest in this. A few other things which, coming back to the basics, I think in speaking, a very important thing is how you carry yourself. The tone of your voice, for example. One of our acharyas, he has repeatedly made this point in our teacher training programs, that a teacher should be able to fill or project his aura, as Swami used to say, till the very back of a room. That if we have a smaller classroom, like right now it's an online audience, Swami Kriyananda's way of writing a book would be to tune in, he would say, to the consciousness of the people he's writing for. Or sometimes he would say, if he knew somebody who was facing those challenges or required deeper understanding of the topic he was writing about, he would say, I would first focus and think them right there, and as if I'm talking with them, and writing for them or answering questions for them, and it made the process very easy. Another very simple way of seeing this is, Swami would say sometimes he would visualize master in the audience. That brought a lot of responsibility. It also, he said that, especially on the path of yoga, and this applies to teachers also who may be teaching young children, in school, that we don't want to talk to people or talk them down certainly. We want to realize that the wisdom we are trying to share with people is already with them. They already have that point. In yoga, we say even the deeper and highest state of spiritual understanding, it actually comes as a smriti, it comes as a divine memory. So how can we treat our audience with that kind of respect? Swami Kriyanandaji would say that over the years, he never actually felt that he was teaching people. He said, I had learned something, I found it extremely useful. I thought most people, everybody actually, he would say, because these are the principles, universal teachings of yoga, he said, I thought everybody could apply them in their lives, and hence he was very enthusiastic to share them. But he said, I never presumed that they ought to follow it. And again, I think that's important, especially when we embark on the spiritual path or a teaching path, that we want people to give them the freedom to choose these teachings, to see how much they can apply. It's very important to give people the time. And like I said, many times people say that they are afraid of public speaking. I remember one time in college, I was asked, actually the whole class was asked to talk about a certain thing, in biochemistry. The teacher wanted 3 speakers, and biochemistry was not my strength. But then, even then, I volunteered, because I felt in that moment when the question was asked, I felt, oh no, I hope she doesn't pick me. Because I was slightly afraid of that responsibility, and I said, oh no, I don't like that feeling of being afraid to do something, which she's able to do every day, let's say, as a teacher. And I just offered myself to go through that experience, that why be afraid? And I realized very quickly that not only did I give a fair presentation, my friends told me later, because I could prepare, and that is all, sometimes it is required if it's a very simple subject, but then the key to overcome fear is to forget yourself, is to pay attention on what has to be said, and even more importantly, to see how you can relate that subject and make it practical for other people. And once we can do that, that is sharing simply, that is actually helping. I said in my prayer, help us make friends, because over and over again Swamiji would say that people would come to him later and they would say, sir, I had some questions which you answered in your talk, how do you do that? I remember I was there one time when somebody said, Swamiji, you shared exactly what I was having in my mind. How do you do that? And he said, I also always tie whatever I have to say around truth. And of course, he says it has to be given a particular form. He says, but when I keep myself, rooted in that center of truth, he says, then from there, when I address the topic, inevitably it helps people. Inevitably, something will be said which is relevant. That is also actually, it brings us to the topic of preparing for a talk versus intuition. Now, of course, we have to prepare for a talk. I remember some talks in which I have gone without preparation, and it's not the most enjoyable experience. On the other hand, I remember one of my talks, it was on music, and I had never spoken on music. I have not had a musical background, but it was about how music can heal us and what effect it has on our consciousness. And recently, one of our teachers told me that she recommends that video to other people. It's about a 45-minute talk. And it is, I would say, to quite a degree, a good talk, but the main ingredient in that talk was not my experience on music, because I had none. But I remember it is preparedness. I had prepared for 1 month for that talk. I read different books, I saw what Swamiji said, what other musicians have said, what was science saying about it, what did doctors say about it, what effect it has on our brain, what does anyway yoga have to say, why do people listen to bad music, why are they drawn if it's not good for us, why are they drawn in that direction. So I thought about it because I had no idea, and I put in so much preparation that I was very confident, and I myself would say that it's one of those talks which I like very much. But then, once we have prepared the talk, Yogananda ji would say, then forget about it, offer a prayer, do a brief meditation, and another practice could be tune into your audience. Swamiji would do this sometimes by going to the venue about half an hour before, and he would say that I just pray, and sometimes he would greet people as they were coming, and then seeing on what he felt was the need, let's say too many young people were coming, or one gender versus another, if the talk required a slight change or sometimes a complete change, he said he was ready to do that, because otherwise it would not have helped people. So again, that's a very important thing, that preparation versus going in that intuitive flow of things. Now, Master also gave some advice, friends, to prepare for a talk, and as a speaker it's good to keep that in mind. One he said was, and this is an underutilized tool, Yogananda ji said, is visualization. What is visualization? If we have to do something, let's say tomorrow or in a week's time, and let's say it's a talk, he would say, in your mind, step by step, with great detail, he said, visualize what you will be doing, how you will be doing it, and in many different ways also you can visualize. He would say, visualize yourself saying the key points that you have to. And once we have done that enough number of times in our mind, then suddenly when it comes time to do it, it's almost as if you have done that before. So that is a very important tool when we are planning to give a talk. Another thing he would say is, of course, like I said, pray, meditate, but then this was, eyes, he would say, sorry, I think it is, that when we are communicating with our audience, he would say, as you're talking, look into the eyes, not like deeply of people, but just see if they have some questions over there. Or sometimes you can see that what you're saying is not making too much of a sense to people, or somebody has this expression of a confusion, and go into a detail, perhaps share a story over there, or try to clarify that point. On the other hand, if you're seeing that somebody is very enthusiastic about it and it's trying to help them or relax, then at that time we want to explain that perhaps a little bit further. Master would also say that give energy to those who are more enthusiastic in your talk, and I think that's a very important thing to do. Few more things to explain any concept. Not only is it important, Master says, to convey the instructions of, or let's say the explanation of the topic, he would say the feelings are equally important. Actually, they are more important, he said. His lines were, we have to give people bliss. Swamiji would also repeat this to teachers, that we are here not just to share techniques, but to actually change consciousness. And that, makes us realize how important it is to meditate before a talk, to, allow the masters to come and, inspire us to say the right things. Because in the end, especially when we think of a spiritual talk, what are we trying to do? I was recently, watching a talk where somebody was saying that the most important thing you want to convey is an idea. Now, it is true, ideas are very important, but I think, where do ideas come from? On the spiritual path, we say they come from consciousness. If our consciousness is high, we draw those kind of thoughts and ideas to ourselves. And that consciousness in the highest form is bliss, it is calmness, it is peace, joy. And when we are feeling that, then we want to convey that. And Master says eyes are a wonderful tool to convey that. Sometimes I have seen that, now this is again a very simple advice, that we, not just depends on the hall, but mostly it depends on the speaker, that we talk one way, more in one direction more than the other. And again, as an audience, you can notice this very quickly, but give, due share to your entire audience, see how you can address them. Many times you may be involved only in a one-sided talk, but like I said, if just by seeing how people are doing, we can try to answer their questions. It's also good once in a while to actually, if you feel it's becoming one way, here I have no option, or you have no option, I should say. But then we can involve people by just gently breaking the talk and saying, hey, is that clear? Do you have any questions? Master would also say, share some stories, bring in some humor. Swami Kriyananda would say that, Master's way of sharing was not actually very different from how even Christ, shared, that there were many stories or simple parables involved in between. I'd like to just see if there's something important I have missed over here. Yes, so a few qualities, that sometimes we, especially, knowing the teachings, we have this doubt that how much should I do it, and how much will God do it through me. And one story I wanted to share was a fun one of Swami's own experience, where he said, okay, I don't want to say anything of my own knowledge, I want God to do the talking. And for almost 2 minutes, he stood there on a stage one time and didn't say a word. His friends thought that he was not totally frozen of fear, but Swami later said that after 2 minutes, I had realized that God will not do the talking, I will have to play my part. That yes, we want consciousness to go through, but we also want, we have to cooperate, or you might say we have to facilitate the flow of grace, that we have to put it simply into words and communicate those things. Well, I think this is what is striking me right now. But then if there's are there any questions right now? No. So let me just check if there are any more points that could be covered. Of course, there has to be an attitude of gratitude when we are doing this. Ending on time is extremely important when we are, today I'm actually ending before time, looks like, but it's very good to keep and stick to the topic and the time that we have been allotted. Okay. Yes, now this is one simple thing. It applies to any talk we are giving, and especially if we are in a position where we've done this talk many times over, over the years perhaps, but try to again each time think where your audience is. I do this exercise often in the last half an hour to 15 minutes before my talk, that I have prepared, I have checked, especially lessons in meditation when we do that how to meditate workshop, that just close your eyes and visualize that, okay, I'm not going to be talking to a person who has meditated, perhaps totally new people will be coming, they would not have meditated, so I have to explain this, what is meditation, how can we make it simple, how can we make it tangible, how to give them the experience, and again you can fill in the blank of the topic you're addressing, how to once again see it from a person who has walked into the class for the very, very first time. So I think, friends, these are some tips we can take. And one final word of advice: there will be many times we want to all give a good talk, we want to prepare well, but like one of our acharyas says, that every now and then we will goof up. I remember one talk I was giving on inner peace, I think it was, and I just kept going round and round in circles. And at the end of it, which is also another thought, that always, or sometimes at least, be open to feedback. This is one thing I've often asked a few friends always, and acharyas, to just give me feedback. And one time I didn't even have to ask for feedback. The talk was so, you might say, off, that our eyes just met and there was this exchange of laughter, that it's one of those where I was saying I had hardly prepared. But feedback is extremely important. It also helps sometimes to see our own talk, a video of it, just to see how your voice is being projected, how much pause you're giving between statements, are you smiling enough, or so many other things. So that feedback is very important. But like I was sharing, one of our friends said that in the end, you always want to give it back to God. That, Lord, I did this and I give it back to you. Thank you for using me as an instrument, and I hope to do better next time. That's another reason why Swami would say that he visualized Master in the audience. For one, he saw Master as his divine and highest friend, and he says, I'm just simply sharing and I'm giving it back to Master. So I think in that way we can always keep ourselves new and be creative. Okay, so we have a question here.
Explain project on aura.
Okay. The question is, explain what do you mean by projecting the aura. So aura is energy, and if you see Swami Kriyananda especially, or any good speaker for that matter, even before they have spoken, there is this feeling or knowing that he knows what he's talking about. Or and especially when we are using our voice, Swami Kriyananda ji said we can use the voice, our tone, our presence, to actually change and uplift people's consciousness. So how do we do it? You simply project it. I mean, it's hard to explain. It's not talking loudly, but it's enveloping everybody in your, you might say, you're concerned. You have their, they have come there for a reason, and you're there to explain it. So you're enveloping them, embracing them in that effort for that time. You're not leaving them out. Or sometimes, as I said, your voice should reach the back of the hall. Your gaze should reach from, at least sweeping from where people are sitting from corner to corner, you might say. So you are making them feel included, and they are all, you're holding them in that energy field. Okay friends, thank you for joining this evening. Hope to see you in the subsequent webinars. Jai Guru.